We have a League of Legends content creator who wanted some art, but it went downhill really fast, and people are really divided about this situation. So this is posted by Dantes. So Dantes is a League of Legends content creator who's known for like being a high elo Hecarim one trick. And Dantes writes, I've always used art that I found online to add hype to my tweets over the last few years. Recently, whenever I try searching for any, I always get AI and it doesn't invoke the same emotion that I'm used to. As a result, I'm gonna do something I've never done before. Over the next 9 days, I'll be looking to commission upwards of 20 different art pieces from artists to hype up my new climb or challenge that will be starting July 16th. Due to the sheer magnitude of pieces I'm looking to commission, I'm gonna cap each commission at $35 or less. I'll also be tagging the accounts that create the pieces in the post that I use them for. If you're interested, respond to this tweet with examples of your work and time it would take to complete plus price per piece. I'll DM you if I'm interested in commissioning. Looking for pieces that look or feel similar to the images used in this tweet. Thank you in advance. So here we have some images. These, I suppose, are the reference images for what he's looking for. A lot of people in the comments aren't happy, but a lot of people are supportive as well. So a commenter writes, $35? Be so for real. It should be $40 minimum and not 35 maximum if you want similar work. Dantes writes, did you not read the post? If I'm commissioning 20 pieces, I can't drop 1 to 2K just for Twitter pics alone. One of the biggest issues that artists face is getting their name out there. So that's what I'm hoping that tagging them helps offset cost. Nino writes, bro, artists charge $50 minimum for a full body of a character with no background. You're looking at upwards of $100 for something like this. Freedom dollars too. Dantes writes, I'm hoping that being tagged in the post that the artwork is used in will help, but I won't be spending 1,000 to 2,000 just for Twitter images. This one is just funny as hell. This commenter writes, I've been making amazing artwork like this since I was 5. My artwork was put on the fridge by my mom. I think I'm what you're looking for. And it's a bunch of stick figure drawings, and Dantes says, stay in school. And another commenter, Poppy, writes, if you can't afford around $100 per piece, then don't commission as many. If you don't want to pay a fair price for the work, then hire somebody minimum wage to find publicly available works and tag the artist. And Dantes writes, there are millions of artists on this app who no one knows about and haven't been commissioned in weeks. This is an opportunity for those people to at least find some measure of work while also being able to get their name out there in a way they would normally never be able to. If you can't understand the value of that and your brain only functions in hourly wages, then that's yours, and whomever else agrees with you is loss. So, to be honest, the pieces that he is referencing that he is trying to commission for, he's looking for full body illustrations with a fully illustrated background. Pieces like this, and obviously artist wages do differ on where the artist is based in, but a piece like this, like I could say bare minimum $100. That's like really low. You're probably going bare minimum $150 per piece for a piece like this. Again, I'm trying to give benefit of doubt. Dantes, from my understanding, is not an artist, so he might not know how much pieces that he's asking for typically is worth. Again, this is typically bare minimum $150. On average, you're probably getting a piece like this for 300 USD or higher, like average. I love seeing people try to support artists. So I love seeing people, instead of just turning to AI art, which is what a lot of other creators are doing, Dante is trying to go out of his way to commission artists for pieces. I love that sentiment, right? Artists need work. I love it when people give the middle finger to AI art. So that I definitely respect. I want to add that.
Looking to commission 20 pieces because I want like a tweet a day, then obviously, right, there's going to be some amount of cost that's offset by the fact that I guess like exposure is offered. Because at the end of the day, the people that say exposure doesn't pay the bills are literally just wrong. Like exposure is what drives long-term traffic to your product, and that's long-term traffic is what ends up paying the bills, not an individual piece that you're going to be creating for someone. But it's like it's the same thing of when people were shitting on Nice for that like $350 coaching thing, right? Like the price is available, people can choose to take it or not, yet people are just shitting on him for like no reason because they're like, oh, but you could charge less. I mean, sure, like anyone could charge less as a coach, you know? He doesn't because he didn't need to. Like that's just how business works. Like I don't get it.
That's very interesting. I personally think exposure doesn't pay the bills. I can see in his head how he arrived at this conclusion, if that makes sense, right? It's not like he is like an art account where his audience is people who buy art. So there is like a high correlation between his audience and people who want to buy art. So there's like a higher likelihood that if he tweets it, that people want to buy the art. His audience is mainly League of Legends players and Hecker and One Tricks. So the amount of people in his audience that would commission for art pieces, I feel like is also pretty low. And I think that would also cause an issue too, where like how much is like him tweeting an artist and tagging it really going to affect the artist's business or improve the artist's business? We won't ever know because you can't really directly track those stats, but we also run into something like that. I also think it's interesting how one reason that Dantes makes in this post to not pay more for the art is because he's using it for Twitter pictures. The way I'm reading it, right? And maybe I'm misinterpreting the sentiment here, but it kind of reads like, oh, these are just Twitter pics, so I can't drop a lot of money on it. Where I mean, at the end of the day, in my opinion, you're paying an artist for their work. So what you use the work for, as long as it's within the realms of what you paid for, that's your prerogative, right? Just because you view Twitter pics as less valuable, I suppose, than like, I don't know, to take the artwork and then turn it into a personal desk mat for you to stare at every single time you're playing Hecarim, doesn't mean the artist's work is worth less. You're still asking for the same thing. You're still asking for this full illustration. Just the way you intend to use it may not be the same thing. A hypothetical example is like, I don't know, if you want to buy a diamond ring, but then you're like, oh, but I'm not planning to like propose to somebody with this diamond ring. I'm just planning to go and like put a ribbon around it and tie it around the neck of my Piplup plushie back here. It's not used for an engagement, so like it's not worth as much. No, it's still a diamond that you're trying to buy. So it will still hold the worth of a diamond. Whether you use it for a proposal or you use it as decoration for your Piplup doesn't change the fact that the product you're purchasing still has this innate worth in it. Those are kind of my thoughts. Now, again, I do want to say I really appreciate though the fact that he's just not straight up going to buy AI art, right? Like not buying, but he's not straight up just generating AI art for this. FaZe Lacey, you couldn't say the same for him. He just generated the work and he was like, I'm not paying $150 for a Twitter photo. I'm gonna go to AI and generate it. Don't like that. So I do like the sentiment of trying to support artists. I just think that Dantes has probably like a unspoken innate feeling that maybe art isn't worth as much. I don't know, right? It just kind of feels like he doesn't think Twitter pictures are worth that much, so therefore this is his how much he wants to pay for it. A lot of people are also on Dantes' side, right? Because again, I do want to like for the additional context, most of Dantes' audience are League of Legends players. I don't know how much of his audience overlaps with artists, but this commenter says, okay, I don't want to be a Dantes defender. Dantes is a pretty controversial character, but how is everybody mad that he wants to use proper art and pay people for their work? He was literally just getting it earlier for free and now wants everyone who consumes his content to be involved if they want to, while also getting paid. And Dantes says people just don't understand how self-employment works. Your revenue stream is directly tied to people's interest in you. In that sense, art and streaming is actually very similar. If I would have charged bigger YouTubers $20 an hour to record with me when I was a 50-viewer streamer, I would never be where I'm at now. And the commenter responds, it's always the people that have no idea how life works that talk the most shit. I'm sure everybody who actually wants to work with you will reach out anyways. And another commenter says, false equivalence. As a streamer, attention is your revenue. As a commission artist, attention is a means to being hired. The attention itself helps, but isn't the revenue. You're justifying it by saying exposure is the same way foodies say, give me free food and I'll post you. I personally think the reason why this post by Dantes isn't publicly received well is because it feels like a devaluing of art and what art is worth, even though he has the intention to pay for it. In some ways, it actually can feel worse that he had the intention to pay for it, but then just doesn't want to pay that much. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, I really want this really rare Pokemon card. This card is worth $1,000. I don't want to pay $1,000 for it though, but I'm looking for 5 people to sell me this card, each of you guys to sell it to me for $200. Even though this card is worth 1,000. Now, again, we could argue that Dantes just doesn't know actually how much art like this is worth because he's not an artist. Actual artists will immediately look at this artwork and know, oh, this should be worth minimum $150, but $300 basically is what you can find for a piece like this. So hypothetically, maybe he just didn't know. But it just feels like, even though there is a good intention with Dantes and trying to support artists, it's just the way that this post reads, it just reads that, hey, so I'm gonna pay like 10% of what this piece is actually going to be worth because I'm only using it for Twitter photos, so therefore I don't think it's worth that much. He knows that he feels like he's paying less than what it's worth, but he feels that the posts and the tags will offset the price, which I disagree with. There's the flip side of the coin where people are saying, well, Dantes sets the price so that anybody who would be okay with doing this work for this price would do it, and people who aren't okay with it just don't do it. Like, why are you sweating about this? It's not a big deal. And honestly, to that, I would just say, like, it's not really a matter of like, oh, whomever is willing to work for this price would then take it. More so that this price for $35 per piece, that what he's asking for, just massively undervalues the piece.
Since I'm going to be looking for like 20 pieces to commission, I'm putting a price cap of like 35 or less per piece. And then tagging all the accounts and everything. And people like, just let me know if you're interested. The amount of comments that I read that were people saying shit like, well, actually, you probably need to pay at least like $100, and 35 isn't nearly enough. That's like not even a livable wage, and shit like that was unreal. Can I actually give you guys like a little basic crash course in how being self-employed works?
I always try to give benefit of doubt, even if there's somebody that's pretty controversial, because like maybe there's like a sliver in you that I can believe. This is looking really bad. Let's
Start
see
off,
this.
and you're gonna be making $0. $0. You're not gonna be making anything. And then what's gonna happen
Orca, I'm dead. Why is he mansplaining self-employment?
is that as the interest in your whatever you're selling, service, product, whatever it is, goes up, then your price, right? So this is interest, then the price also increases. When you work on a commissions basis, the way that it works, 35 is kind of low, bro. I'll get to it, right? When you work on a commissions basis, then interest, right, is equal to commissions.
I love how he's pulling out this like MS Paint math to explain something, art self-employment, in which this math doesn't actually work because there is no direct correlation between interest and your commissions. Now, that might sound crazy, right? How there is no direct correlation between how many viewers on Twitch you have and how many subs you get. Basically works the same way. There are many streamers on Twitch who have a buttload of viewers and they don't get very many subs. And there are many streamers who will average like 100 viewers. It's still really good, but 100 viewers. And they have a boatload of subs. Like these guys are pulling in 6 figures per year. 6 figures per year is a lot of money for streaming to 100 viewers. That is like the top 0.0001%. So there is some correlation. Yes, there is, of course. It's not a direct one-to-one correlation with directly the amount of interest you have, the amount of commissions you get. It sounds crazy, but that is basically how it plays out. Just like, again, there's no direct correlation between how many followers you have and how many views you get per TikTok video. It has some influence, but it's not a direct one-to-one.
People aren't gonna have enough work, right? Enough work that they're doing, that all their time is consumed, right? So you're gonna have not a lot of, but you're gonna have downtime for sure. So if you take a hit, right, on let's say price and money revenue to drive up interest and commissions, right? Because now you're getting a lot more people that are viewing your work and shit like that, then that's something that's called opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. The problem that I've been noticing is that a lot of people don't actually understand what opportunity cost is. Okay? Because if you're charging, let's say $50, right, for a service, and then somebody else is willing to do it for, let's say, 30, right, and everyone goes to that person, then even though you charge more, you're going to be making infinitely less. You see what I'm getting at?
This is also the logic that non-artists will impose on artists, and even artists will impose on themselves to essentially price deflate themselves down to a low rate. This is literally a problem in the art space because people have this sentiment. And in the business world, price competition is a real thing between businesses that they will engage in. Artists are not multi-million-dollar corporations. They are individuals. Sometimes they have a team of people. This logic doesn't apply in the art space for the same reason, because there's a lot of other moving parts besides all of this stuff. So in theory, surface level, when we don't acknowledge nuances, it does make sense. And then you look a little deeper and yeah, no, it does not. Also, again, he uses the comparison of if somebody charges $50, but you charge $35, the $35 one is going to get more service. This is not $50 of work, bro. The references that are being offered, with some looking suspiciously like AI, but cannot confirm because of how blurry it is. You're asking for pieces that are worth, again, bare bones minimum $300, like bare minimum. If you get a foreign artist, maybe you could go down to like 150. It's not comparable, bro.
Well, 35 is a bit of a lowball offer. I mean, sure. But I'm looking to commission 20 pieces. So it's like, since I want to commission 20 fucking pieces, I'm not going to drop $2,000 on a fucking on just tweets.
Wow. Okay. So he acknowledges that $35 is low. I don't know if Dantes knows how low it is. $35, 10% of what you could get for artwork like this. Like you're asking for a 90% discount essentially for a retweet and a tag by you. Is your retweet and tag worth the difference? Is your retweet and tag worth like $300? Also, his Twitter blue, so he's recouping some of the price the price difference, by the way, with like all the posts. It really just feels like a woe is me sentiment here. If you can't afford it, then don't buy it. Thoughts? Question mark? I don't know. I cannot afford a Chanel bag, so I'm not gonna buy one. You see how that works? Yeah, like, or just don't buy 20. Like, if you can't afford 20 art pieces, That's chill. A lot of us can't, so buy 10. Or if you can't afford 10, buy 5. Dante's audience is League of Legends players. His audience is not primarily artists, nor is it primarily people who purchase artwork. So the opportunity cost of a retweet from him for an artist is really low. Realistically, how much commission work is an artist gonna have to get to recoup the loss for doing this labor for him? You're basically, the artist will never net positive on something like this because his retweet isn't worth that for the artist. We could argue potentially there could be some worth for an artist if it is somebody that has like direct connections. You know what I mean? Like maybe, and I don't ethically agree with this either, but hypothetically, maybe Riot Games, maybe somebody who is a art lead at Riot Games is looking for some artwork. Now, I would imagine they would never underpay like this, but they're looking for some artwork and they're like, hey, I'm looking for some fan art of this character. And, you know, amongst the artists that submit this fan art, we're looking to maybe hire somebody for an internship. Now, that we could argue as direct opportunity cost, because when you do this labor, you might potentially get a job. You might potentially get to work with this art director. Like, there's a very high likelihood because this person is in the art field and they're directly hiring for artwork. Dante's audience is not that. So basically, there's no direct correlation between his retweet and you getting more work. So in my opinion, the exposure thing doesn't fly. I don't agree with exposure in general, but if we're playing devil's advocate, even as playing devil's advocate, I still can't see it.
Just so everyone's aware, it's gonna be that you're getting X amount of money and exposure, right? And people seeing your stuff is gonna be a big part of it. And then if people don't want to do it, then they just say they're not interested. But then you have this multitude of people that are just sitting there and they're like, this is exploitation. I don't know. Like, I just like, wow. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, again, right? If I go on Twitter and I say, hey guys, I'm looking for an editor. I'm not, I have an editor. And I'm like, hey, I am looking to pay you $5 an hour to edit videos for me. Take it or leave it. You could pull the same logic. Oh, well, if you're not interested in taking this rates, you could just say no. Yeah, sure. And you know what? People are going to turn around and call me a fucking scammer for trying to massively underpay below US minimum wage for labor, because that's also true. Yes, I would be trying to scam people if I did that.
imagine I have 20 viewers, right? And 10 of them tell me, Dantes, if you don't go live tomorrow, we're gonna never watch you again. Then because a big portion of my viewer base would leave, I'd be forced to go live tomorrow even if I don't want to. But if I have 10,000 viewers and 10 of them say that, I can just laugh and say, all right, it is what it is, right? When you are in the market where you're providing a service or a product, then it's very, very, very consumer based at the beginning process. And once you have enough consumers, that's when it becomes like another thing.
Did I just hear what I heard? Yes, in the business world, there's supply and demand. And if there is a demand for X service to only be worth this much, as in people refuse to pay more than X amount for this service, then yeah, people in the space are forced to kind of lower their rates or you lose business. That's true. For artwork like this, the average rate is like 300, $500. Plenty of people are willing to pay more, thousands of dollars, not the same. He was basically saying that he was like, oh, if I have 20 viewers and 10 people ask me to go live tomorrow, I'm forced to go live. But if I have 10,000 viewers and 20 people ask me to go live tomorrow, I don't have to because screw them. Because there's this demand, then you basically, essentially, artists will need to like bend to it. I'm not a big fan when people do this because artists already underprice themselves as it is. And when people, especially large creators in the space, like encourage artists to undercharge themselves even more. And then AI is like, again, tossed into this conversation where it's like, well, I could be worse and use AI, so I'm better because I'm like trying to pay. Feels like it's a little bit of a misplaced sentiment. It's like, oh, I could do this thing that's really, really bad. But instead of that, I'm gonna do this thing that's a bit less bad. Why don't we just do the good thing? You know, like, oh, because this is less bad, then it's okay now.
This is the thing. I'm not disagreeing that artists should be able to make a potential full-time living from doing artwork. I'm not disagreeing with that. And I'm also not disagreeing, right, that if you're being paid $35, right, for 10 hours of work, then that's not a full-time potential wage of living. These are not anything that I disagree on.
He says he doesn't disagree that $35 for 10 hours of work, so you're paying $3.50 per hour. He doesn't disagree that that's exploitation. He also agrees that artists should make a full-time living. Then what's the point of this post? Because this post directly goes against your statements there.
But the thing is that the value of the offer comes from the fact that you take the hit, right? If you're interested in it, obviously, on one piece of art that you're going to creating, or multiple if you are interested in doing that, right? And then from taking that hit on one, you can potentially open up the floodgates to receiving many that make the opportunity cost way more worth it. You see what I mean?
I just want him to do an experiment, okay? I just want him to find one artist, pay one artist the fair rate for an image like that, post it and tag them, and let's just see how much money the artist makes from it. Like directly from Dante's post plus tag. How much work would the artist then receive from that one post and tag? If we can see that there is a direct correlation with you posting and tagging the artist and them getting enough work to recoup the $300 loss from doing this artwork for you, then we could make that argument that yes, you are the GOAT himself. Your retweets will directly put a ton of money in artists' pockets to where this would be worth it for them. Or the reality is it's not going to happen because your audience is League of Legends players, very few of them being people who purchase artwork. I think League of Legends content creators should stick to League. It's awful to pay such little money for the rights to artwork, even if people are willing to take the money. I'm not surprised he knows nothing about labor and capital in the marketplace of ideas. I think it's important to extend charitability to Dante's that he will change his position, but I'll never defend his take. Just because people are willing to take the wager pay doesn't mean it's right to begin with. The best case scenario is that he is just ignorant to how much he's underpaying people. Maybe he thinks that that art piece is on average worth $50 and that he is willing to pay $35. So he knows he's undercharging, but he thinks it's undercharging by a little bit and that his exposure could make the difference. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario, he actually knows that these art pieces are on average worth $300, $500, and he's gonna pay $35 per piece, and he thinks his exposure is worth $300 to make up the difference. It's looking more like it's actually the second one, just given how much he's like doubling down on the exposure stuff, etc. I do think people are definitely allowed to branch out. Just because you're a League of Legends player doesn't mean you have to stick to League of Legends. You know, when people are giving you valid criticism in the comments, being like artists, right, are like, hey, as an artist, this is really low pay. And he's like, I have hella haters, and my haters, da da da. It's like, well, of course there are haters, but there's a fair amount of people who are just like rightfully telling you, hey bro, you are undercharging, and he's just doubling down. And then Dante's continues, for those telling me that I should have just used Google Images instead of hiring a real artist for this job, if I'm gonna underpay them, go F yourself. I'm willing to put upwards of $700 to $1,000 in the art scene to support up-and-coming artists at a time where they are the most threatened due to AI. Instead of being a performative influencer that just says FAI, farms a few likes, then hops onto the next trend, I'm actually trying to help a scene that I see is headed towards a dark path. And what do I get for it? People that sit there, deny my help, and post hate comments who are not even part of the community I'm trying to uplift. So now I'm going to talk directly to them. It might seem a little long-winded that I'm reading everything that he says, but it's just because the tone that he writes it in, I feel like is important to communicate, so that's why I'm doing it. But he's basically referring to people as failed, worthless, armchair analysts. He calls people miserable, that you've never managed to make it in any of your endeavors. Doesn't mean that other people shouldn't be given the chance to succeed. So here he says, any rational thinkers understand that in a scene where the most amount of money you make is directly tied to the amount of people interested in the product or service you provide, exposure and recognition on a wider scale is the foundation for success. So here he kind of doubles down on the fact that exposure is payments, because that was something that he received criticism for in his previous post, that he was like, yeah, I'm going to underpay people with $35 per piece, but you're going to get exposure and that will directly correlate to you gaining from this. And he doubled down on that on his Twitch stream as well, which I disagree with. And Dante's writes, if you don't realize that, that's fine, but the real artists do. But yeah, so he discusses AI art for a little bit, and then he mentions that he's reached out to 10 artists privately who are apparently very grateful for this opportunity. And then he encourages people to interact with real artists. So some artists were responding in the comments and they were kind of going back and forth. So this person by the name of Wolverine writes, I'm an artist and have been self-employed my entire life, over a dozen freelance industries. You're wrong, which is fine. But pretending everybody who disagrees with you is doing it in bad faith is really cowardly and dumb. It's better for artists collectively for you to use AI or Google Images than it is for you to undercut wages. So Dante's responds, it's better for artists if you use AI or Google Images and quote, you're a moron. It isn't undercutting wages if the exposure I'm offering factors into the cost per piece being lowered. Not just that, but sitting here and talking theoreticals and hypotheticals about what I'm doing is bad, da 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 da, when I'm giving people opportunities is hilarious. Stick to coaching. Maybe if you posted less dogshit takes on Twitter and spent more time doing your actual job, you guys could win. And basically, Wolverine says, that's true, but I don't think exposure does that. I don't think it's okay to pay $3.50 an hour. You're driving down cash wages regardless of exposure value. Another commenter says, this is literally performative. You're building your brand as the benevolent streamer who tries to uplift artists in dark times. Like, come on. And Dantes responds, who said anything about me being benevolent? I'm making an offer that people can choose to accept if they feel like it's worth it for them. And yes, it is uplifting artists during an only increasing dark period with AI art. You're a moron. And a commenter responds, the following example is an exaggeration, but the point stands. If you travel to a very poor place and gave people crumbs to eat, the F were you expecting? The exposure does nothing. Your viewers are not the needed target. You're taking advantage of the situation. There's also a lot of people that are on his side as well. A commenter says, any upcoming artist can do a drawing, get a massive free boost in advertising by your channel seeing their work and getting a link to their channel and $35 for it. They would be stoked. If someone else thinks the artist should be paid more, this is America. They are free to order art and pay the artist more. And another commenter responds, the thing that bothers me is his delusion of what an upcoming artist can do. The images that he showed are closer to professional level art. And other commenters are saying, W take. The backlash is insane to me. Nobody is forced to accept this price for commissions. If it's not enough, people will say no. So what's the issue? That's like the final results of the situation. That is his final response about it. I would love to hear your thoughts about this scenario. Again, don't send hate to Dantes. In the beginning, I was trying to give benefit of doubt. I thought maybe he didn't know the value of what he was asking for and that maybe he thought it was a $50 piece and that he's doing a little discount for $35. But after seeing the stream, I myself can't give him that benefit of doubt anymore. Again, we'd love to hear your thoughts down below, respectfully. If you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on VGen, I have art there, and on Ko-fi, I have free resources for streamers and creators, and I also stream on Twitch, which is where this was recorded, 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. I also started YouTube memberships if you're interested, where you would get to access the videos early. So yeah, there's all of that. So I would love to catch you on one of my streams or in another one of my videos. Peace.